Shalom again, everybody. Ariel Tzadok here from the KosherTorah School, found online at www.KosherTorah.com, bringing to you today's daily lesson in the Sefer Yetzirah. This is today lesson number 93, counting down towards the end. We only have a couple more to go through, and then we've concluded the book. Remember, all of this classes, all of this series has been dedicated to the health, the safety, the well-being, the prosperity, and of course the protection of everybody around the world in these trying times. A lot of weird stuff is going on around the world. You all darn well know it. And that's why we're offering this course publicly at this time. Simply because all the distractions this way and that way. Remember we talked in our last class? Got to focus on what's above. Now, in our previous lesson, this is lesson 93, in case I didn't say that, talked about the different things about what we call the other side, the sitra achra, the dark side of the force. And you know what's the one thing that I actually like about that Star Wars metaphor? You know how they say dark side of the force? As if to say there's a dark side and a light side, but it's the same force. Bingo. That is our message. In the Mishnah 7, which we discussed in our previous class, we spoke about the warring factions. We said that there are three that love. There are three that hate. There are three that bring life and three that bring death. And I quoted to you Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, who said that the version that Rabbi Hayim Vital has, he says he doesn't think that that's an authentic or legitimate rendition of the authentic text. To digress for just a moment, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, he identifies these four forces as astrological, meaning the planets. As we all know, if you know the 12 signs of the zodiac, they are divided between fire signs and water signs, air signs and earth signs. And he assigns, if you will, the attributes to each and every one. And no, I intentionally chose not to go into charts to show you what this one and that one is, because at this point of our learning, you should know already, like I said before, you can't rely upon the external knowledge that others will provide for you, especially when that knowledge is subject to controversy, conflict, discussion, debate, challenge, call it whatever you want. Now, why do we have all of this chaos? Remember in the beginning, it said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And then the earth was void. It says Tohu and Bohu, right? Which they translate as chaotic and void, or void and chaotic, whatever. You know, English translation for me doesn't really mean much. So whatever the words they use, they do. But later in the prophet Isaiah, it says that God did not create the world in Tohu. And yet in Genesis 1 verse 2, it's in Tohu. So if God in Genesis 1:1 did not create the heavens and the earth in Tohu and Bohu, then how did it get that way by Genesis 1:2? You'll find a number of the religious scholars, Jewish and Christian both, say, something's missing from the text. And while we don't think anything's actually been cut out from the written words of the Torah, the teachings, the education, the mystery is most certainly there. And this is, of course, where we have access through the oral Torah, which is accessed, of course, through the traditions handed down to us from the biblical prophets, our rabbinic sages, and, of course, through personal experience in the ascent sciences and arts, the likes of which we are learning in this course. But now, getting back to where and how and what we are in this world. Like I said, we're summing up the course now. And as we sum up, you're going to remember how we began the course. Matter of fact, in Mishnah 10, we're pretty much going to summarize what the first Mishnah of the class said. We're going to add the icing on the cake in Mishnah 10, and then we're done. So It's really, we're at that point now where we're wrapping things up. You know what? Let me just throw in the words of Mishnah 8 so that we can talk about it within the context of our continuing conversation here. It states here, Ahad al gabe shlosha. One is upon the three. Shlosha al gabe sheva. Three are upon the seven. Shiva al gabe shnaim asar. And the seven are upon the 12. The kulam adukim ze b'ze. And they're all bound together. Now, 1, 3, 7, 12, 1. Let's go back. Now, in this universe of ours, as you very well know, it is a place of conflict. We have conflict every day with everything, and you just know that that's the way it is. And it doesn't matter how healthy or strong you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have or don't. There's always conflict. There's always, hit with an S, you know what I mean, every single day. That's life. But why is it like that? The answer is exactly what we've been talking about, which is, if you remember, we have the sefirot energy here. We have the letter energy here. These two work together. I was about to say need to work together, but the whole system has been created that we have, if you remember, sefirot and letters, or force and form. May the force be with you. Well, may your force be in proper form. Using Star Wars language again, that's the, in quote, light side of the force. When we take the letters and we turn them into oneg. But if we take that same sefirot energy into the letters and twist and turn the letters, then we create the same letters from oneg, pleasure, into nega, plague. Remember that from chapter 2? Well, that's why you have the same sefirot energy, the force. And it can be positive or negative. Not that the force changes, but how we apply it in the letters, how it is applied within the astronomical, astrological influences that come upon us, whether they be from the planets or the constellations that have their source in fire or water or air or earth. Okay? All of these things interact with one another. So we have tension in the universe. Here we are as the human being in the middle. We feel the tension of the sefirot energy drawing consciousness up, and the tension from the letters drawing consciousness down, causing division. What are we supposed to do about that? Obviously, we don't allow division to separate. We bring things together. So our job is to bring the sefirot into the letters so that they can merge as one. Adukim ze baze, as it says, bound together as one. Now, you might have noticed a little thing that I did with my hands. Let me show you that again. Here, let me move back from the camera here. When you have consciousness which is facing up, it's going up. When you have consciousness which is facing down, they're going opposite one another. You can't have yichud, unity, when they're facing apart. But if that which is below is facing above, and that which is above is facing below, then my two hands can come together, knit and merge. You don't need to see my pretty face. My hands are blocking it, too bad. All right? This is not the face of a, whatever. But my point is, attitude, orientation is everything. We use the symbolic representation. I was about to say symbolism, and the symbolic comes out all funny like that. I love it when, reality hits us. But let's go look. In the traditions of Rabbi Hayim Vital, he says the real relationship between humanity and God is supposed to be what we call a face-to-face relationship. We're merging face-to-face. But when, in quote, now I'm going to speak in religious talk, so just allow it, okay? When humanity sins, like that religious word sins, it's as if we turn our back to God. So if God sees the backside of humanity facing, God, in quote, gets angry. Nice religious mythology, and punishment will come. So in order to avoid punishing us by seeing how we've turned our backs to God, essentially God turns his back to us. So we're in a back-to-back relationship. That's called ach be'ach. What that actually means is like this. The sefirot energy, the natural glue that bonds the universe together, 1 to 3, 3 to 7, 7 to 12, 12 to the 1. Ehad, unity. This is the normal way. When we get involved in all the different combinations of letters, meaning the thoughts that we think, the feelings that we feel, and the deeds that we do, which are messing around the shapes of the letters, instead of creating cohesion, are creating diffusion. And again, using the symbol from chapter 2, you're taking the oneg and flipping the letters around and turning it into nega, plague, if you remember. Okay, we do this. And when we do this, the vibrational power of the sefirot, if it came in full force into the nega, plague, then instead of having a COVID virus that goes around the world now with a mortality rate of what? Maybe 5%? You would have something so much stronger with mortality rate of the 95% that are recovering, as opposed, to the opposite. So you don't want that full sefirotic energy coming into the form of nega. If it does, we're goners. So the natural flow of things siphons, limits the sefirotic flow, and turns it into like just a little dribble as opposed to a full flow. As such, we are affected in all different areas of our lives with the little dribble and flow. It's not only going to affect the badness that comes your way, it's going to affect the, in quote, goodness that comes your way. And with the little dribble and flow of the sefirotic energy, shefa, nefesh, chi, orgon, prana, kundalini, the limited amount blocks your financial success, it blocks issues of health, it blocks all kinds of stuff. So how do we open up the flow? Answer: first, get your life in order so that you're not channeling energy into nega, plague. Turn it around. If it's not oneg, something similar. And then you can open up the spigots. How? Meditation, the focus, all that spiritual ritual stuff that we do, which is specifically geared towards opening up the sefirot channel. Now, as we said here, Mishnah 8, 1 to 3, 3 to 7, 7 to 12. This is the order. What is the 1? The 1, obviously, all right, let's not get into all the details here of the sefirot. We've covered that elsewhere. The unity, we call it God. Call it the will of the universe, the singular force. It materializes originally in the 3. Remember we said the 3 books way back when from our first lesson, the Sefer Sipur, the story, the pre-existing reality, the intuitive psychic reality, the Sapar, the individual intellectual mind of you and me. We're the storytellers who read the story of the universe. This is Chokhmah going into Bina. And then, of course, you have the Sipur, the story. So when you want to manipulate and work with letters, that's creating your story. What are you writing? What is the nature of your story? Well, if you don't like the story that you're writing or reading, as the case may be, change it. Yeah, it's that simple. Remember we said flip around the letters is the metaphor that we use to say we have the power in our hands to do everything we want. So you have the 1 that can come into the 3, and the 3 may go into the 7. The 7, as we said, is the realm of the human emotions. The human emotions with the upper head, those form the 10 sefirot. Then you have the 12, which are the interconnecting paths of how it all is put together. And they are all bound together with a single glue. And that is the great revelation. The power is in our hands. We can change the world. And it all begins inside here, us, ourselves. It is not just enough that you change your behavior or your details of your acts and deeds and stuff. You also have to change the way that you feel, the vibes that come out from you. You have to change the way you think so that you're in proper calibration with not only good and evil, but right and wrong. We discussed this in our previous classes. You can no longer be or tolerate being sympathetic to that which does not deserve your sympathies. You should not continue to be tolerant towards that which is not worthy of your tolerance. At the same time, that which does deserve your sympathy and that which is most worthy of tolerance, you must and should embrace, but not because I say so. Don't ask me what these things are and expect my opinions to go to you. No, that's not the way it works. That's the tree of knowledge, good and evil. We've had enough of that tree already. The tree of life is that you, as the individual, yeah, I'm talking to you. What movie was that from? Was that like Taxi? I think. Remember, Rabbi said, "Am I talking to you? Yeah, I'm talking to you. I don't care who you are. I don't care when, where, why. I'm talking to you." Change the world. Make a difference. Don't you dare say, "Who the heck am I?" You are part of the whole. And as part of the whole, you have access to the whole. And if you have the will to make a difference, rather than turn the oneg, pleasure, into nega, plague, and force your will into it to cause destruction, havoc, and chaos, that's what we call the dark side of the force. Strange behavior activity, or in Hebrew, avodah zarah, translated in religious speak as idolatry. Thou shalt not. No, no, no. You think you can manipulate the forces to your own personal desires? We don't do it like that. You're not out to take the whole and to form it into your image, but you're out to tap into the universal image and to flow with it. Go with the flow. Feel the force flow within you. Go with the Tao, as the Orientals would say. Submit to the will of God. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done. All right? Jewish words before they were Christian words. On earth as it is in heaven. But this is the great secret here. When we are here at the end of the book, tying all of our teachings together, medical teachings, astrological, astronomical, energetic, all of these teachings come down to a singular power that is within us. When you can focus and intuitively realize the proper balance in this world, then that is reading from the primordial book. Remember from our Sefer Sipur? That's the Sefirot Chochmah, who we call the tree of life. That's eating of the tree. You have to get past the flaming sword, which is inside the turmoil and the chaos. But you can do it. I've taught you how. You got to go back, maybe review this entire course, and we'll make it available as a complete entity, as a whole. I am planning, once we're done, to translate the entire course into audio MP3 files, and we'll make it available on our course page on the KosherTorah School. Of course, it will be for a fee, but hey, that's business. What can I say? It's the way life has got to be. Called practicality, a lesson we all need to learn. But understand that practicality. It's to take that etz Hayim, that sefirot energy, and put it into the form of the letters, so that everything is adokim zevazeh, bound together as one, in proper balance, where the power of mind rules over the power of the heart, which rules over the combination of all the things. A little martial arts example. For those of you who are familiar with real martial arts training, all right? I've been a student of martial arts now, oh my goodness, would you believe, honestly, 50 years plus? Okay? I remember way back when. I learned all the different forms and the structures, combinations of the letters. And then as I grew in my experience, and I'm going to go a little over too bad, I realized that with all the different forms I learned, they started to like merge and get together. And eventually I said, rather than try to keep these forms separate, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to do what works for me. And I started to combine the different forms. And I created my own forms. And it works for me. And what do you know? Little did I realize that years and years and years ago, Bruce Lee, of all people, he taught the exact same thing as the foundation of his Jeet Kune Do. That ultimately, do what works. Stop being so rigid. Be fluid. And I realized in my own experience the reality of that. And that's the message I share with you. Be fluid. Whether it's the combination of your different elements within martial arts training, your philosophical pursuits, or other academic, intellectual, emotional, or physical things that you do. Learn how to bring it all together. Learn how to make it all one. There is conflict in this world. Our job is to resolve conflict, first within ourselves and then out to the world. We can do this. And on that note, I'm going to conclude here in this class. God be willing, we'll sum up the next few classes and we'll conclude our course. I'll see you next time. Shalom.